Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to talk about thought transmission and the concept of everyone is you pushed out, and how your thoughts are often being transmitted to others without you often even meaning to do so, causing them to then take inspired action. From my own personal experience, I find that this works best when I find that I'm getting myself caught up in thoughts of that person for a few seconds. And especially if the thought that I'm having triggers some kind of a feeling. I really believe that this helps to impress the subconscious even more. I allow them to just enter my mind naturally, kind of like in a daydream state. I don't try so hard, I just let it be natural. I let the thought of them flow in. I sort of give it my attention for a few seconds and then absolutely, completely drop it afterwards. Don't even think of it again. Go about my day and just let it go. So if you're trying to manifest some contact from a specific person and you're not having much success, then by all means, give this method a go and see if it works for you. The first time this happened was about 3 months ago, and I was on my way into work and I had just hopped off the train and I was walking into my office building and just happened to look at the building next door. The building next door is where one of my very best friends works, and often we would actually catch up mid-morning and have a coffee with each other because we did work side by side. And it just occurred to me as I was entering the office that it had been a while since I'd actually seen or heard from my friend. And I kind of felt this very, very brief flash of guilt for not contacting my friend. But that was it. I sort of walked into the building and completely forgot about it. I didn't think about it for the rest of the day. I just did my work. I left the office and I was on my way home. And so I was actually just crossed the road and I was walking a little bit down the street when I just heard a voice calling out my name. And I turned around and it was my friend. So she was running across the road to catch up with me, and we literally just bumped into each other. I just couldn't believe it. I knew that I had manifested it, but it still blows me away when it happens. And so I said to her, because I never see her when I leave work. We never leave work at the same time. So I've never ever run into her on the way home from work before. And I asked her sort of why she had left work so early. And she just said she just felt inspired that afternoon to just leave work a little bit early that day. For no other reason. She just felt like going home a little bit earlier, which she never ever does. She always works back late, if anything. And it just so happened the exact time she left was when I left, and we just ran into each other. So that's just sort of how it works. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't have the thought of her hoping to get something, to get the contact from her. I just sort of had the thought, and she felt inspired to leave work early that day, and then we bumped into each other. So that was the first example. So the second example of this happening recently was when one of my other best friends had a baby. So this friend and I are very close. However, we don't talk very often on the phone. We just both have busy lives, and we don't communicate with each other via phone that often. And she's also quite a private person, and she had her baby and sort of went radio silent afterwards. So I was thinking about her throughout the week after she'd had the baby, wondering how she was. And I really wanted to speak to her. I wanted to call her just to check in, but I didn't want to sort of interrupt that precious bonding time that you have with a baby once a baby's born. And so I decided that I wasn't going to call her. But this particular moment when I was thinking of calling her, I was doing my makeup. I had nothing else sort of running through my mind. I was just standing in front of the mirror, putting my makeup on, and I thought of her. And I just sort of had that thought of wanting to call her. And I wonder how she is. And I think I probably dwelled on it for a few seconds. It might have even been 15 seconds. Not much longer than that, I wouldn't say. But that was it. I just kept on with my makeup, started thinking about something else, and I never thought about it again. Not for the entire day. I just went on with my life. And that night I was cooking dinner and I just sat down on the couch and she called me and for a chat. So she just wanted to check in with me. Like, she had just had the baby and she felt inspired to ring me. And I just couldn't believe it and it's because I feel I've been having that thought of calling her that she then felt inspired to call me. So I thought that was really, really cool. So I made a note of that one as well. And the third example of this happening was just recently. My sister actually moved overseas and she wasn't able to come home due to the pandemic. And I was just standing in my kitchen one day, sort of looking out the window, and I just had this thought and sort of an overwhelming feeling that she must really be finding being away from home quite hard. She must be missing home right now with everything going on. And I remember getting caught up in that feeling of, she must be missing us. And then that was it. And the next morning, I received a text message from her saying she had just decided on a whim the day before, when I'd had that thought, that she was just going to book a flight and come home. And what was even crazier at that point was that she had not been able to fly home at all up until that point because it wasn't allowed due to the restrictions. But right around the time I had that thought, that same week, the restrictions had changed, but I didn't know that. And as soon as the restrictions changed, she booked that flight and came home. And some might just say it's coincidence. I choose to believe that she felt inspired to book her flight and come home when I was thinking about her missing home. So anyway, those are the 3 examples that I've had recently. I have so many more. I get text messages all the time from people when I'm thinking about them. And it's always when I'm not trying. It's kind of when I get caught up in that thought for a little bit, but then I just let it go. And then I manifest it like that. It is just so quick and so easy, but it still blows my mind every time. So if you are trying to manifest a specific person and you'd like to try this technique out, my advice would be to think of them when it feels natural and not when there's any distractions. So try and do it when you just have a moment of quiet time where you're just sitting there relaxing and just kind of let yourself think about them. Wonder what they're doing, think about how it'd be nice to hear from them or what they might be up to, or that it's been a while since you've spoken to them or heard from them or seen them. Just sort of get lost in that feeling for a minute, but then most importantly, let it go. You have to drop it, you have to forget about it, you have to move on. You can't sit around and dwell in it all day. You actually have to let your subconscious get to work once you've had the thought. And it'll come. And if it doesn't happen right away, do it a few times throughout the week. So just take a little bit of time to kind of get caught up in the thought and sort of treat it more as like a daydream, like a natural kind of feeling and a thought that comes to you. Don't try and force anything. It has to feel natural. So give yourself a few seconds each day, maybe for say a week, think about that person and then drop it. And you can what's even better and what can even be more fun is to just assume that now that you've had that thought, well, they're going to contact you. Because if you understand thought transmission and everyone is you pushed out, then your thoughts are always reaching that person on the other end. They might not always contact you or take any action, but if you're having a thought about that person, they're going to receive that thought on their end. And so if you keep doing it more and more, they're going to feel inspired to contact you eventually. And it's funny when you just assume that they're going to, and then they do, because your thoughts and your assumptions create your reality. So that's it from me today, guys. That was just something I wanted to share with you about thought transmission, my experience with it, how I get it to work for me really quickly and easily, and how I make it fun as well. And I get really great results from it. So if you'd like to play around with it, try and get that contact from a specific person, then give it a try. If it works for you, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a comment below and let me know how you go with it. And I will see you in the next one.